morning. Welcome to the Prayer Porch. I'm excited to have you back on this fabulous Friday morning as we've been taking a week to go through Proverbs chapter 3. It has been such a rich chapter. It's one of those weeks that it's nowhere where I thought we were going to go. And yet God has just taken it and said, come on, I got some good stuff for you. I've got some really wonderful things as we're talking in this season, and everyone's with, well, what do you, this whole week started from a conversation at my dinner table with, what would you like for Christmas? And then I started getting into Proverbs 3, and it's so fun because it's talking about all the richness in his word. And if we really desire those and make them the desires of our heart, how our life is transformed. And it started, just as a quick review, it started with the first set of verses was choose your teachers wisely. Who's your teacher? Make sure that you're learning from the right people. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right teachers. And when you surround yourself with the right teachers and you know that they're aligned with God, then you write their words in your heart and you align it with his word. And you just say, yes, yes. And you grow richer and richer, which brought us to the second day, which talked about the richness that he has in wisdom and discernment and understanding, and how those are like gold and ruby and silvers, gold, silver, and rubies. And then we talked about common sense. And he said common sense is like precious jewels. Precious jewels. So then today, as we come to the end of the chapter, we've talked about these beautiful gifts and these wonderful gifts that transform your life in who you are and who you become and how you view life and how you suddenly can rise up above those troubles will be here, but suddenly you see them from a whole different perspective. You have a different perspective and a different outlook that gives you that refreshing. It's the treasures in my daddy's lunchbox that we talked about. When he opens his lunchbox and says, taste and see that it's good. It'll give you a nourishment that's amazing, that will transform your body into a nice, maybe this should be my New Year's devotion, because it's that transformation of the more you wear of him and the less we wear of ourselves, the more refreshed we are in who we are and the more healthy we are, because we are aligned with what the Creator created us to be. So I come to the end of this chapter, and I know I say this a lot. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my favorite. Oh my, that's my favorite. But this is just one that I think is so perfect for a Friday wrap up of what we've talked about all week. And this is one that we lose sight of. People either have it or they don't. People are either givers or they're takers. Givers and takers. Are you a giver or are you a taker? Think on that and be honest with yourself. Because this next verse, it's one simple verse in Proverbs chapter 3, but this simple verse carries a strong punch. And it's one this time of year when with this sitting that a lot of people are here, and you need to be discerning. We talked about wisdom and discernment. But you also need to know who is the giver of all things. Who is the provider of all your needs. I want to share this verse with you. Proverbs chapter 3. In verse 21. It says, 27. Even with glasses, I can't tell a 7 from a 1. Verse 27. Do not withhold good from those who deserve it, when it is in your power to help them. If you can help your neighbor down, don't say, come back tomorrow and then I'll help you. Don't plot harm against your neighbor, for those who live nearby trust you. Don't pick a fight without a reason and when no one has done any harm to you. Basically, mind your own business. Don't make trouble. Don't be the gossip. Be the one in the neighborhood that everyone knows is a salve on the wound. That was my words, not the scripture. It says, don't envy violent people, copy their ways. Such wicked people are detestable to the Lord, but the Lord offers friendship. Get that? He offers his friendship to the godly. He curses those of the wicked, but he blesses the home of the upright. The Lord mocks the mockers, but he's gracious to the humble. The wise inherit honor, but fools are put to shame. We have talked about Proverbs 3. And as we've talked about Proverbs 3, I actually was going to hold on to verse 27 and not go on. And yet God had me go on, and now I'm looking at something totally from a different perspective. Because he says, I love the verse. It says, do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. That's a whole talk in itself. And that's actually where I was going to go. Because when we're in a time where you're going to have a lot of people, especially this season, a lot of people are asking for help. This is a time, and I am telling you, if you have the means, help. And I say that because I've also seen people who give what they don't have. And there's a person near and dear to my heart. And this person, when she was alive, would want to give and give and give, and then turn around and say, hey, I gave this bound, how can you give this? And don't give others things, and you don't go in debt for giving. But if you have it, give it, share it. You've got to give it away and pass it around. And then you will be blessed. You will be blessed in it. But notice God says be discerning with who you give to. Be discerning, because there are those, unfortunately, that are out there to get just because they know this is a season where a lot of people give and they hoard those things. So ask God for discernment. You may be surprised more than once when I ask God, Lord, show me who you want me to give my time, who you want me to give my resources, who you want me to provide this or that. And there are times he shows me people that I would have never thought. And they were so grateful because they had asked him in secret. And you just kind of slip it in and nobody knows, not even them sometimes. That's a blessing. And that's when you have that blessing. But if you have it in this season, give. It says, if you can help your neighbor now, don't say, well, let me see if I have it tomorrow, and if I still have it tomorrow, no. When God puts it on your heart to give, give. But then I'm going to tie a nice pretty bow on this Proverbs 3 package. Because I want you to hear this whole end of this takes and says, if you grab these gifts of following good teachings, wisdom, discernment, understanding, common sense, and the gift of giving, when you find those treasures and you put them in your treasure box, here's what you have. Are you ready? The Lord will bless the home of the upright. He offers his friendship to the godly. He is gracious to the humble who give without wanting recognition. The wise will inherit honor. Wow. Honor, God's graciousness, blessings for your home, and this is my favorite, his friendship. The gift of God's friendship comes with a lunchbox full of treasures. But you have to know the giver. You have to know what daddy to run to. You have to know which lunchbox to open up. You have to know what treasures are waiting there on a plate with someone reaching out and saying, taste and see that it is good. Taste and see that it is good. Good teaching and aligned with him. Get in the word. Ask for wisdom, discernment, and understanding, because he promises that he'll give you a Mary Poppins lunchbox where you can just keep pulling it out and pulling it out and pouring it out in abundance, which will bring you peace that is beyond that understanding, which leads us to common sense and discerning what is right and wrong, which leads to eyes of his that see those in need and know that our Father's opened the lunchbox for us to provide. And then the aftertaste of his blessings, of his honor. He will honor those who are humble. His graciousness and his friendship. Wow. Friends with God. Ooh. Now that's the best coffee partner you can have. Hey, I love you. It's been a great week in the Word. Go back, read Proverbs 3, write it on your heart. Ask God to open his lunchbox and share it with you. Have a great weekend. I can't wait to see you here on Monday. Love you guys. Have a good weekend. Happy Hanukkah.